2014 is already underway, but as they say, we can't have a bright future if we don't look back to our glorious past. So this is going to be a list of the 15 best movies I saw in 2013. Now notice I use the words I saw because I obviously wasn't able to watch every single thing that came out last year. And here in the Philippines, we usually have to wait till like January to March before we get those big Oscar-worthy December movies. So don't expect to see movies like 12 Years a Slave or American Hustle or The Wolf of Wall Street or Her or Nebraska on this list because they just didn't come out here. I can't do anything about that. However, we still did get lots of other really good movies, both local and international. So I decided to expand this list to the top 15 because I wanted to accommodate more local and foreign language film. So enough with the chit chat, let's get started. At number 15 is Side Effects, Steven Soderbergh's supposedly last movie, and I hope that that's not true because it's a really, really good mystery film. And among all the movies I saw last year, I think it's the only one I can really call a mystery. Side Effects is about this girl named Emily, played by Rooney Mara, who, when she gets depressed when her husband Channing Tatum gets sent to jail, and she's given like this new prescription drug by her psychiatrist Jude Law. These drugs they give her strange side effects which become increasingly more and more violent, and the rest of the film is really like this whole web of intrigue thing about who is responsible for Emily's actions. And as with any Soderbergh movie, this movie looks really unique. I mean, the visual style is really unique, and it has this great score to accompany it. And as a mystery, of course, it's filled with plot twists, and some of them are ridiculous, but for the most part, it's really fun to just follow it. It keeps you on the edge of your seat, like. And Soderbergh does a good job of really fleshing out all these characters, so you don't really know who to trust. And in the end, it's really about that. It's really about how everyone has a capacity to backstab, and that's interesting. Now at number 14, we have a real man's movie, and I'm not talking about like geeky stuff. I'm talking about cars and adrenaline and glory, and that is Rush. And Rush chronicles the rivalry between these two Formula One racers. James Hunt, played by Chris Hemsworth, who is like hotshot, raw talent, pure unbridled like recklessness, and Niki Lauda, played by Daniel Bruhl, who is cold, calculating, and it's like he and his machine are just like one entity. And the movie really succeeds mostly because of its leads. Chris Hemsworth does a really good job. He separates himself from his Thor image pretty well. But Daniel Bruhl playing Niki Lauda is incredible. He's not a likable character, but Daniel Bruhl really makes you understand why he is the way he is, and he's just a total badass. And amidst all the racing, which is really really well shot and well edited, it's really at its heart a story about like this rivalry. And I like how the film tells us that having an opponent does make you a better person. Deep down, you need opponents to grow. So it's not about hating your enemy. It's about loving them and respecting them for what they can do. Okay, at number 13 is one of the main reasons why I extended this list. I'm still not sure how to pronounce it. It's either Badil or Badil. I'm not sure. It apparently means like dynamite in a certain Filipino dialect. And it's essentially a movie about election fraud, but it takes place on a really small island and we just follow, like over the course of a few days before an election, these guys who are making sure that the people they paid off will follow through in the end and vote for their candidate. Because the acting here is incredible, the writing it's excellent. It's a very slow burn kind of drama thriller thing, and it really works though because you can just feel the movie just unraveling layers, and at the end it just exposes like the corruption at the core of this whole system, and it really shows how people are so used to this kind of behavior, just paying people off and being bought. I do think it's an important film to watch, especially here in the Philippines, because it presents this issue in such an honest and sober way without, embellishing anything. Now at number 12 is a movie that only got better the more I thought about it and the more everyone talked about it, because everyone was talking about Frozen. Frozen, of course, is the story of Queen Elsa, who is forced to flee her kingdom of Arendelle when it is revealed that she has ice powers, and her younger sister, Princess Anna, goes off on a quest with a bunch of characters in order to find her and bring her back. It's so old school, and what I mean by that is that even if the animation is incredible and the songs are really really amazing, uh, in the end it's a very simple, charming story, and really does subvert the Disney princess subgenre, if you would say that, and it's all for the better. Like it gives us a better message of what an act of true love can be, and it really is just like really light, funny. It's enjoyable. It's everyone's likable in it, and it's a good time. At number 11 is a movie that took the Philippine independent scene by storm, and so much so that it became our submission to the Oscars for Best Foreign Language Film. And even if it didn't make it, Transit is still a great movie. Transit focuses on the lives of these overseas Filipino workers living in Tel Aviv, Israel, at the time when the government there had a law that would deport children of immigrants to their home countries if these children didn't fulfill certain requirements or criteria. And this family here has a kid who doesn't fulfill this criteria, so they're trying to hide him. Now, Transit deserves mention solely because of its unique narrative structure. Like, it's all non-linear. They focus on individual characters, and really, like among the local films that came out last year, this is like first-rate cinematography and writing and acting. It's just a powerhouse of a movie, and ends up being this collage of issues that OFWs face, and it doesn't shy away from bringing up really tough questions about identity, and it's really heartbreaking. It's really sad, but it's really satisfying to watch. Okay, now I'm gonna have a lot of foreign language film submissions to the Oscars in this list, but don't think I'm doing that just because they're submission. I mean, they were submitted for a reason. That they're really good. So this next one, it comes from the UK. It also didn't make it, but that's also a shame because Metro Manila is a really, really fun movie. Well, fun, like not in a happy way, but eh. So Metro Manila follows the story of this family that moves from the province of Banawe to Manila in order to find better jobs, to, just find greener pastures. And almost immediately they're taken advantage of, and the father, Oscar, ends up getting a job as an armored car driver. And here he meets Ong, who becomes like his mentor and his best friend and stuff. But as they continue doing their job, it becomes clear to Oscar that Ong has other plans, and they're not exactly legal. Now, what surprised me about Metro Manila so much was that it wasn't like whitewashed. This director Sean Ellis, he had so much respect for these characters, and he really just focused on uh, the story. It wasn't like poverty porn in any way, I think. Again, it's a slow burn kind of thing, but I think it's totally worth it because the acting is great across the board, and the chemistry between Jake Macapagal, who plays Oscar, and John Arcilio, who plays Ong, is so believable. Like, when these two are just talking or having a beer, it really feels like they're friends. But when they start arguing, you're afraid someone might get shot. And in the end, it's really a movie about like how far would you go for your family and stuff like that. And like the twist they have at the end and just the way it concludes is so cool. Okay, bear with me. This one's another foreign language film submission, and this comes from Brazil, and this one is called Neighboring Sounds. Neighboring Sounds is like a slice of life kind of thing. It just kind of follows the lives of these people who live on one street in this affluent sector of Brazil. And one day they decide to hire some people to serve as like guards or like the neighborhood watch. And as they do this, we as the audience slowly begin to see that there are cracks on this suburban surface, and that everyone's kind of living in this culture of irritability and paranoia and stuff like that. Now, this is probably the artsiest movie on my list. I did enjoy this one a lot because I still was able to relate to the characters. It didn't feel like we were watching people do mundane things. It was everyone going through like different unique situations that were still relatable. And no matter how distinct or different the characters were, everyone still kind of felt unified in like the same themes. And again, acting, writing, cinematography, it's all great, and it's really about how, despite everyone's differences, we're all in the same boat together. And it's not the kind of film you go out and watch for like a good time. It's the kind of movie you just kind of take and contemplate on, and it's interesting. Now at number 8, this I consider this like to be the biggest surprise of the entire year, and this one is Boy Golden. Boy Golden is very loosely based on the life of this real life gangster in the Philippines, like in the 60s. His name is like Arturo Procuna, I think. And here in this movie, he used to be known as Boy Anino or Boy Shadow. And he and his family just get wasted by the mob, and they leave him for dead. But then he comes back as Boy Golden. He's leading this one-man vendetta against the mob. And Boy Golden is so fun to watch. Like, just visual style alone, it looks like Dick Tracy doused in neon. And it's so comic booky. The action is so over the top. It's so fun. The characters are larger than life, but it's just so fun to take in because the film is so dedicated to showing you all these different characters and stuff like that, and how they interact and how they all tie into the same plot. Despite the over-the-top violence and stuff, it really becomes a movie about how this kind of life of being a gangster and violence and stuff, it's really not for anyone. Like, no one should want this kind of life. Now, I mentioned in the intro that we don't get a lot of movies that are like going to be Oscar worthy come award season. However, we still do get some, and one that I think really is Oscar worthy is Captain Phillips. Captain Phillips retells the true story of when this Maersk, Alabama ship, I think, was hijacked at sea by a group of Somali pirates, and this movie really just follows over the course of a few days what these characters have to go through to survive. And of course, I gotta say this first, like the acting is incredible. Like Tom Hanks is gonna be good in anything he does, but I have to mention Barkad Abdi, who plays the lead pirate, he is out of this world. As in, this is supposedly his first role in a movie, and he brings layers of nuance that some Hollywood actors can't even touch. I mean, you really feel for this pirate guy by the end of this movie. It's insane. And of course, Paul Greengrass brings his signature style of very naturalistic filmmaking, and it really immerses us. You forget that you're watching a movie. And it's not like a whoa, that was awesome thing, like when you leave the theater. It's more like it's very sad and very slow and tragic kind of story. And what I got from it was that it's really about people driven to desperation in like this huge world wherein we really don't have control of our fate. It's not like a yeah go America good guy bad guy thing. It's like it's such a gray area, and it's really up to you to decide. Now number 6 is what I guess it's my favorite movie of this year because uh, I watched it 3 times, and every single time I watched it, it just hit me in the right places, and that is Sana Date. Sana Date is loosely translated to If Only in English, and it's a movie about this girl named Andrea who is about to get married. This rich businessman guy named Robert, and she obviously doesn't love him, and on the day of their wedding, she meets the wedding videographer named Dennis, who reminds her of the man she truly loved. Now, I know this plot sounds really cliched, but I promise you it completely subverts the romantic comedy. I mean, the director himself called it like an anti-rom-com, and that's what it is. In fact, it ends up giving us an even stronger message as opposed to all that escapist stuff. Like, it really tells us to face our problems and, like, deal with it. And of course, it is one of the best-looking, most well-written, most well-acted films from last year, and not just from the local scene, like on an international standard, I think. And really, it's just a good time. It's fun to watch, whether you're alone or with your friends. It's worth coming back to. Okay, number 5 is my last mention of a foreign language film submission to the Oscars, but this is different in the sense that this actually made the shortlist, and I hope it gets nominated. And this time it's from Italy, and it's called The Great Beauty. The Great Beauty is about this like 65-year-old guy named Jep Gambardella, I think, who is like king of the nightlife in Rome. He goes on parties every single night, and he just hangs out with his high class, high art appreciating friends, and this movie is really just them kind of talking about the high class stuff, performance art and literature and stuff. But deep down, Jep feels this hollowness. Like he sees that all around him, despite all the parties every night, like his circle of friends and the life he lives is so superficial, and he's just trying to look for like inspiration again. Okay, if it weren't for another movie in this list, I would say that The Great Beauty has like the best screenplay of the entire year. Like it's so good. The smart thing about the screenplay is that like his friends, Jep and his friends are such snobs, almost, and they're hypocrites, and they're so eloquent, so that really makes way for really fun conversation. And really, this movie is just like conversation after conversation, and I like how at first they feel like unconnected vignettes, like it just feels like you're going from place to place with Jep, but there is still a sense of continuity in the background. So what it does, it gives this effect of you're just following Jep around as people just drift in and out of his life, and it really adds to that whole feeling of it being hollow. And this movie really is about like the superficiality of this lifestyle, and it looks fantastic. It sounds fantastic. Like it's a blast to watch, and in the end, it really is kind of inspiring, really. Okay, at number 4 is what I consider to be the best local movie of the year. I know I didn't get to watch every single local movie, but from the ones that I did, Extra is the best. Extra is a movie that follows a woman named Loida, who is a single mom, and she earns her living by basically being an extra in various like TV shows and stuff. And Extra balances its elements so well. Like the director Jeffrey Judorian, he really does justice to all the different sides of this movie. First of all, it's a drama. It's also a comedy, a really good comedy, and then it's like some sort of expose into the entertainment industry, and it's also like a parody or an almost indictment of local television. And Vilma Santos throughout all of this is incredible. Like she's almost like the Meryl Streep of our country, and she's like a huge star. But when she becomes like this extra, you really do feel like she's an extra. She kind of just sinks into the background. And like I said, it's sort of like an expose to the entertainment industry, and I think that's important for people to see. And it's also important for people to see, I think, because it shows why local television, these soap operas and stuff, are so important to our culture. Okay, at number three is probably the only documentary I really watched from last year, and this one is a tough one to watch. This one is called The Act of Killing. The Act of Killing has the director Joshua Oppenheimer traveling to Indonesia, and he interviews certain people who were involved in the Indonesian massacre of 1965 to 66, if I'm correct. But what's surprising is that these people, the main one being Anwar Congo, are so open about how they killed people and how many people they killed and in what ways. Joshua Oppenheimer allows them to recreate their killings in whatever movie genre they want, and it becomes this nightmarish, like really disturbing, weird piece of filmmaking. As a documentary, Oppenheimer really takes a step back. He lets them do the talking. It really unfolds like a story. And this movie raises so many questions, so many difficult questions that have no easy answers. The biggest one that stuck with me was, when does someone actually lose his humanity? Or is that possible? Like, if a mass murderer acknowledges the fact that he did wrong, does that make him any more forgivable or not? Like, I'm not asking for an answer, but it's tough. And it's really an experience to see. And should be discussed for years to come. Okay, these last two, in my mind, like, they stand head and shoulder above like the rest of these movies. They are utter masterpieces to me, and these really are experiences to see in the theater also. And they're like neck and neck, but I decided in this order finally. So at number two is Before Midnight. Before Midnight continues the love story that started in Before Sunrise and Before Sunset, of Jesse and Celine, played by Ethan Hawke and Julie Delpy. But this time they are married, they have kids, and they're like taking a vacation in Greece. But this isn't the same like madly in love couple you saw in the first two movies. This time you really begin to see that their marriage, their relationship is shaking. And of course, this is all done through conversations, like 10 to 15-minute long conversations. Now this is the best script of the year, like hands down. And can we get Ethan Hawke and Julie Delpy like recognized for their acting? Because they're ridiculous. Like, I mean, everything is so naturalistic. This one really feels like you're sitting there and having a conversation with these people. It's crazy. And it's really a credit to Richard Linklater, the director, for keeping things so real, and to the point that when these couple has conversations about how much they love each other and stuff, like it's great. It tugs the heartstrings. But when they argue, it's scary. Like, you're so scared for these characters because you care about them so much, because the things they say are so relevant, like universally. And it really is, like, in the end, yeah, as cliche as it sounds, it's about the power of love. And you really do end up appreciating relationships, like, despite all their flaws, like, it's still love. Okay, at number one. I decided that this should be number one because among all the movies I saw last year, this is the only one, I think, that really reminds us why watching movies in a theater will always be better, like, than like watching it on a small screen or on TV and stuff. Like, this is the movie that was like an event, because Gravity will never show in theaters again. And if someone tells me like, oh, I'll just watch it on the small screen, it's not the same thing. It really is not. Gravity is the story of these two astronauts in space, Sandra Bullock and George Clooney. They're doing like a routine satellite check or something, and debris suddenly comes in and just destroys everything. And these two astronauts are left hurtling around through space, and the rest of the movie is just them trying to survive. Gravity is truly a transformative experience. Like, I remember watching this in a packed theater, and no one was talking. Like, it was just everyone's just taking it in breathless silence. And when I came out of the theater, I was so shaky. Like, I felt like kind of like I was in space. Not kind of like, I really did feel like I was in space. And on the car trip home, and when I was sitting in my room later that night, I thought debris was gonna come in and kill me. Like, seriously, this is like Murphy's Law, the movie. And Alfonso Cuarón, the director, really does a fantastic job of immersing us in this experience through like the visual effects, which is like the most realistic space you'll ever see, and his direction, which really just keeps you on this tightrope for the entire 90 minutes. And Gravity may not be the most profound movie out there. Like, I know a lot of people complain, like, oh yeah, just fun to watch, just, no substance. I do think there was a lot of substance. It's just a very simple message, and just because it's simple doesn't mean it's not there. And for me, it really is just about how good it is to be alive, and really. And Gravity didn't have, like, let's say, the best acting, the best writing, or anything of 2013, but it's a great example of a director and all his people, like, really working together and striving for this one vision, and they really do it so well. Like, Gravity is such a unique film, and in my opinion, it is one of the best movies I've ever seen. So yeah, that is my list of 15 best movies I saw last year. But what did you guys think? What were your favorite films of last year? If you agree, if you disagree with this list, like, just say anything, comment below, tell me what you think. And I look forward to even more conversations with you guys.